So, hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and just here at near the Frenchman's Bay. This is, I think, I don't know the name of this creek, but just here not too far from Bailey Street. And it's a kind of a nice day here. It's been about 28 and kind of lots of clouds moving overhead. So some cloud and some sun. And just thought I could get out here and do a little meditation and maybe Dhamma talk. So first we could maybe do a little bit of meditation, maybe just 5 or 10 minutes, and then a little Dhamma talk. Okay, so when we meditate, we can get our back nice and straight, and then we can look about 3 feet in front of us and close our eyes. And we can think thoughts of goodwill. Wishing, may all beings be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And in spreading goodwill in this way, we learn to make our mind infinite and unbounded. So we can do this going through each of the 4 directions as well as above and below, wishing that all beings there are happy and at ease. And it also comes with a recognition that true happiness and ease, oh, a tree just fell there, comes from putting the right causes into place. And so what we really wish for is that all beings learn to put the right causes into place to be truly happy. And we wish they learn to take care of themselves with ease. So with this in mind, we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right-hand side. May all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings be happy and at ease. Okay, and we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right-hand side and to our left-hand side. May all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. Okay, and we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right, to our left, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond. In every dimension, may all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right, our left, in front, and behind, in all four directions. May all beings in all four directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings in all four directions be happy and at ease. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right, our left, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all four directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings in all four directions and above be happy and at ease. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right, our left, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction, everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction, everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make our minds infinite, can make them unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings in all four directions be happy and at ease. Okay, and can open our eyes and do a short reflection on the Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammāṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. So nice to be here today near Frenchman's Bay, and to be here doing some meditation. And hope everybody out there is having a great day as well. And so right now is it's the coming to the end of summer in Canada, and this is actually, you can probably see there's been a bunch of wind, and there was some clouds overhead, kind of threatening rain, and right now it's about it's in the mid-20s, maybe approaching 30, and it's pretty nice. And over the next couple of days it's supposed to go down to, I think it'll drop like 5 or 7 degrees tomorrow, and then it's supposed to drop 5 or 7 degrees the next day. And we'll probably have some more sunny days like this, but August is over, it's coming to the end of September. And then around fall, the kind of leaves start to change color, kind of temperature changes and all these things. And so this is part of the kind of natural cycle that we see in nature. We kind of always expect these kind of things to happen. You know, when summer starts to come to an end, when September starts to roll around, then this is what the weather gets like. And there's people who really like this kind of weather, love the fall, love to see the leaves change, love all these things. Other people might like summer more. But observing these kind of patterns in nature gives us, can give us a kind of a lot of insight, you know, because ultimately there's not really much that can do to stop it. Kind of, you know, like it or don't like it, you know, like it that it's a windy day, don't like it it's a windy day, like it that summer's changing to fall, don't like it that summer's changing to fall. It's still going to change. Kind of, this is still the natural condition of the weather here in Canada, for whatever scientific reasons those are. It tends to go through this cycle of kind of seasons, and they don't last kind of forever. Summer doesn't last forever, winter doesn't last forever, fall doesn't last forever, spring doesn't last forever. They all kind of change and cycle one into the next, one into the next, one into the next. And of course this is the way that conditions tend to cycle anyways. Kind of, you know, we all have this kind of, for whatever condition might arise, there's always this kind of spring period. There's this kind of summer period, tends to be where it blooms. There's this kind of fall period where it fades away, and there's a winter period where it's kind of gone, right? Kind of, everything's like that, you know. And so the tricky thing is that when spring is coming, when the buds, you know, when the flowers are blooming, buds are starting to form, the weather's getting nicer, it's easy to kind of grasp onto that. You know, kind of spring is here, you know, kind of this is the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like spring. You know, spring is what we're supposed to have. And then of course summer comes, and it can be like, okay, you know, this kind of summer is going to last forever. I remember there was this song called Summer of '69, and it was kind of, you know, all about how the summer of '69, you know, felt like it was going to last forever, and all these amazing things happened to this young man in this summer, you know. But of course, you know, our lives go through these same kind of phases, you know. So in a person's career, there's a time when they're kind of coming up through the ranks, doing their thing in their career. There's a time when it blooms, they're able to buy a house, they tend to be able to support a family. And it's very easy at that time to kind of build an identity around that job, around that kind of family, around that kind of life. Like, this is who I am. I am my job. I am my family. I am this life. You know? And of course, these kind of things, this kind of job, person's family, the physical health of their body, all these things arise according to causes and conditions. And these causes and conditions are always changing. You know? So a person who is now doing quite well at their job, the time comes when their body starts to get frail, it starts to get fall, you know, and then there's a winter period for their career. They have to leave their job, they have to retire. It's just no choice according to the causes and conditions. And it's the same thing with people's families. Their children, there's a kind of spring for them when they're kind of growing and growing. You know, or maybe a spring for their family life when it's kind of just starting off and their children are growing. It's a kind of summer when their children get mature, and there's a kind of fall when they're preparing to leave for university and start their own careers. And there's a winter when they go and start their own family. And so at each of these phases, attaching to any of these kind of things in each of these phases can bring a lot of suffering when it's time for that phase to change. When it's time for a person to leave their career, it can suffer a lot if they have a strong identity around their career. When it's time for a person's children to leave the house, it can suffer a lot if have a strong identity, a strong sense of attachment to children being in the house, you know, being around. And of course, it's difficult not to do this because we tend to need to sustain our existence by feeding on something, by grabbing on something, by consuming something. And when we consume that thing, it kind of becomes a part of who we are, becomes a part of our sense of self. And then of course, when that sense of self leaves, it's kind of like, you know, losing a piece of yourself, like losing a finger, losing, losing an arm, losing whatever it may be. And so the Buddha's solution to this isn't that these things that come into our life, like if we're a lay person, You have to find a way to get food on the table. And if a person happens to have children, then their duty is to take care of those children and make sure they grow well. But all those are kind of gratification, these things, the danger, the gratification is the kind of happiness that a person gets from whatever money they get at their job, whatever kind of happy times they have with their family. But the danger is when these kind of things go. Kind of danger is when they go, people can suffer a lot. Suffer a lot, feel this kind of empty nest when their family's gone, feel kind of like they're kind of useless when their retirement comes. So what the Buddha recommends instead, these are things that people feed on, these are things we can feed on to give us a sense of identity, is to build a sense of identity around things that are more wholesome. Build a sense of identity, learn to feed on the happiness that comes from generosity, that comes from giving things away. And learn to feed on the sense of happiness that comes from being restrained. I'm a moral person, I'm a restrained person. Learn to feed on the sense of happiness that comes from practicing meditation, from learning to train the mind. And what all this does is it gives a different sense of refuge. It gives a more internal refuge for people. It gives them a sense that actually the Buddha uses this phrase, learning to delight in the Dhamma, delight in developing, delight in abandoning. In other words, we can learn to become fascinated with the process of training our minds, fascinated with the process of abandoning bad habits. How does this work? How can I get better at this? There's something fascinating about it. And this is in the same way a person becomes, fascinated by their job, fascinated by the advances in technology in the job, fascinated in trying to take their company forward and moving up the ranks in their career, how that works, Same way we get fascinated in moving up the ranks in the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. We get fascinated in building right view, fascinated in building right intention, fascinated building right livelihood, right concentration, right mindfulness, all these different links in the Noble Eightfold Path. When we become fascinated kind of moving up the Buddha's path like this is something that we can actually do right up to the end of our life. As a lay person, it isn't necessarily the case that it's impossible to cultivate this path in the lay life. It is possible to a certain extent, but there's just a lot of things that can pull our attention away from that. So what this means is that actually when we learn to cultivate this kind of Noble Eightfold Path, get sort of fascinated by that, what that actually does is takes our fascination a bit away from our job, takes our fascination a bit away from other things, our family, our physical health, all these, our physical health is all part of it. But it takes us away from these things. It takes it more towards training the mind. And of course, there's a certain portion where these things overlap. Kind of, to become a more kind and generous person, that's something that somebody can do with their family. To become a more morally restrained person, this is something that somebody can do in their job. And when people do these things in their family, do these things in their job, then it actually, paradoxically, focusing on these instead of just grabbing onto these things can sometimes lead to a greater sense of satisfaction with family, greater sense of satisfaction with their job. But ultimately, at the as the Buddhist path progresses, these two things tend to kind of go in slightly opposite directions, because there also is this renunciant path aspect to the Buddha's teaching. In other words, in order to train our mind, we tend to need to get a little bit of space. In order to sit down in meditation, we have to go to places of quiet. This is very good to do, to meditate by ourselves. In order to get our meditation practice to go more smoothly, to take this as a true refuge, we sometimes have to give up things that a lot of other people like. We have to give up alcohol. We do less entertainment, less kind of TV watching, going to singing and dancing shows and these kind of things. And when we do that, that kind of splits away from the ways of the world a bit, can split away from some of the drinking that goes on in the job, from some of the entertainment type things that go on in a family, from some of the kind of speech that people get into where they're kind of, maybe talking, about gossip about this or that, or getting angry and all these different things, and takes us more towards thoughts of the Dhamma, towards speech based on the Dhamma, towards all these kind of things based on training the mind. And so practicing in a household life, there is this kind of point where these things overlap, and it's possible to practice them both. but also as we practice them, it does pull us away a bit, it does pull us away a little bit. And in the short term, this can cause some kind of pain, kind of a little bit of pain if, everybody else is going out drinking and we're not drinking, or everybody else is, going to shows, we're not going to shows. Other people are kind of getting really angry about politics and we're not getting angry in that. That pulls us back from our interaction with these things a bit. But the thing about being pulled back this way is it gives us a space to take this true refuge, to try to find a safer place, to try to find a refuge in giving, a refuge in morality, a refuge in meditation. And so there is, of course, the kind of upfront pain we might have in this, but there's also the fact that this is an escape from the danger that comes when we grab onto these things that people normally like to consume. We grab onto our wealth, we grab onto our job, we grab onto our family and suffer when these things tend to go. We suffer. We're happy when it's the kind of spring for these things. We're really happy when it's a summer. It seems like it's going to last forever. And then when the fall comes, start to get a little bit worried. And when the winter comes, can feel a lot of pain. So the Buddha recommends instead to have this kind of shelter from the seasons, you might say, to try to build the shelter based on morality, build the shelter based on generosity, build the shelter based on meditation. And of course, that will take us out of the sun a bit in the summer, take us away from the flowers maybe a little bit in the spring, kind of in this shelter, building this shelter. Not totally, still get out and interact with the weather. But the nice thing about this is that when fall and winter comes, we have a safer place to stay. We're not just out there in the elements, exposed to the elements, We have a place to go when it starts to get cold in the fall. And then when the snow falls and everything seems really bleak, we've got a nice warm place to stay. So this is a kind of refuge that's worth building, a refuge based on restraining in the 5 precepts, a refuge based on giving, learning to give things away, become a generous person, become happy in giving gifts, and a refuge based on meditation, based on learning to take delight in cultivating the mind, learning to find joy and happiness in this training, getting fascinated with it. Because even if it takes us away from the things that we love a little bit, it gives us a sense of safety. And it gives a good example to all those around us that this is where we find a true sense of peace, a true sense of happiness. Something that we can take with us regardless of the seasons, and something that people can see that we've built, so they can eventually build one for themselves if they like. So it's winning all around. So this is something that's worth doing, to try to find a refuge regardless of whether it's spring, summer, fall, winter. And so that when spring comes around, we don't get too attached to it. When summer comes around, we don't get too attached to it. And when fall and winter come, we don't suffer. Okay, so I think I'll leave that for your reflection, and hope that everybody has a great day in our nice summer weather today, and going into fall, a new season with lots of leaf changing. Best wishes till next time.